Hello and welcome to another in our 2020 player profile series. We're talking one of your favourites today, Sean.
Thanks.
You always love him. You're always a big fan.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes?
No, not quite Patrick Mahomes. He's Leonard Fournette. So, you're always big on him, aren't you?
Okay.
Tell us what you think of Leonard Fournette.
Okay, well, we have to go back a year because we did put him, we did talk about him in 2018 busting, and that year he did bust, and we didn't bother talking about him last year at all here on the podcast. And actually he did very well last year because he shed a lot of weight last year, which was good in some ways. But I got him back on the bold prediction list this year, I can tell you that. I will say that here. But what I'm going to say about him, just so people can look forward to that bold prediction, is I'm not expecting a lot from Leonard Fournette this year. Let's be honest, what we can say here, without giving too much away, is his own team have given up on him. I think that's very telling.
They seem to go through stages of this, don't they, where he's falling out with the coaching staff continually, and that's got to be a worry for any sort of player. But
yeah, massive.
That said, he's the clear number one there, and
he is.
There's no real competition. You've got
there isn't. Look, he shed a lot of weight after the 2000, because it was an injury-riddled season, 2008, and he bounced back last year and did exceptionally well. In fact, very, very well. The only thing
he's good.
The only thing that was missing from his game last year was touchdowns, and sometimes you just can't mitigate that. That's just freakish sometimes.
Yeah.
He caught 70 balls. There isn't really much one can say, but if you really think about this year moving forward, the guy that was mainly responsible for that, and again, I covered this off in the bold prediction, is no longer there. So without beating a drum on this, there are a lot of concerns and flags I'm raising over Leonard Fournette's opportunities for this year. Now, I will spell this out in detail in the bold prediction, but it's wise to hold that. But all I will say is he is a player that I will not personally be drafting at his ADP. I just think it's very, very painfully high for me. And I think there are better opportunities around him. Now, I take on board everything you've said, and I totally get it. He is the only guy there. And sometimes in drafts, depending on how it's fallen, you've got to look at players like this. But I just thank God there are other players around him that I much prefer at the ADP.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anyone else there who's going to really challenge him. That's the thing. So, if he is healthy, he's going to start and he's going to do all right, because you got Raquel Armstead and he'll do a bit of work, but he's not going to challenge,
What I will say is this, as I strongly believe that Raquel Armstead is the clever play in 2020.
Yeah, no, I get that. You can get him at any price you like. So
and we'll see how it plays out. It's not going to cost you anything. There's no risk involved. You're not banking yourself to the to the fantasy banker, as they say. You feel safe about doing it, and you can get him at a really, as you say, almost giveaway price. So with all those things considered, I much prefer that route. And there are a few reasons. If I just give a little hint at one, when you shed weight the way that Leonard Fournette did, yes, okay, it helped him last year. And some people might say, well, that's really good, but his playing style is still smash mouth. He still missed a game last year. He's actually missed quite a few games over the 3 seasons, which can't be underestimated.
No,
the ankle issues.
He's always suffered with ankle injuries, hasn't he?
Yeah, the ankle issues haven't gone away. And I just think you just keep raising. Yes, the more you look at him, the more red flags go up. So that's all I'm going to say here. The bold prediction will spell it out more clearly why I'm very heavy avoiding him. But no, he's not one for me this year, I'm afraid. But thank you very much for the question. 2020 is a year I keep away from him.
Yeah, I totally get it. I think I would draft him at the right price, just because he's going to be the man if he stays healthy. And
what would be a fair price for you? Where would he have? Are you happy with his current ADP, or would you want that to slip a little bit to make it more palatable?
I think he's okay about where he is. I mean, what other player can you maybe get 3 down work from that's going to be at his ADP? You can't
me.
Hey?
What, for me? I can find a few. Yeah,
I know you can, but they're not going to be.
Yeah. They're not obvious.
I mean, they've all got question marks against them. They either win new teams or
they're rookies. Yeah, I agree.
The 3-star studs are all at the top of the draft. Your McCaffreys, your Saquon Barkleys. I mean, this guy is a 3-down back, because literally there's no competition there for him. There's people who can fill in and do a nice job, but there's no one that's going to challenge him for that role.
Well, I do
It's
take
not like
down more.
like in Denver, if you got Melvin Gordon, then Philip Lindsay would come in and, no one would have any problem giving him that. There's no one like that. Raquel Armstead, he's a decent player, but he's not good enough to take a 3-down role and take a lot of work off him if Fournette's healthy, in my opinion. So,
I'm
obviously
just
there's
going to
an
tell.
injury risk
Well,
and there's a...
look, for me as an analyst, in all truthfulness, that's why he's on my bold prediction list, and the obvious should be coming from that. If I'm saying he's on my bold prediction list, I'm raising red flags. That's all you need to know as a
No,
pundit out
I
there.
get your red flags.
No,
But...
I honestly believe I'm going to be proved very quickly right. And there's a few other reasons. He's absolutely one of those players that's been highlighted to me accurately, I will say, who's very out of shape coming into this. Now, he can improve that. Obviously, he's got time to work on that. Maybe he really looks ripped by the time the season starts, and that's great. But if you see this guy having put the weight back on a bit and not having shed it and kept it off, that should also be another clue where we are. I mean, it'd be difficult to get the information because, teams are very, very cagey at giving much out, which is understandable. But there is information out there where we live in a modern world where things are, photographed a lot more and people are followed around a little bit more. And the fantasy is massive industry now. So people are really catching up with what's critical to understand. So for me, he's one I'm very wary of. I just think there are better options at his ADP. And I think it's still set to climb a little, if I'm honest, because you're right. You highlight the reasons why actually there aren't many 3-down backs in that ADP range.
I mean Jaguars... they've shed a lot of players, a lot of big star players. They sort of got rid of them, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and that's always a bit of a worry. People like Yannick Ngakoue, it doesn't sound like he's settled. Some of their star players.
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a worry. It seems like they're, cutting their cloth a bit. They didn't sign a running back. They're obviously happy with Fournette. They didn't really sign a running back in the draft, did they?
They're not actually happy with him at all because they didn't pick up his
they're not. Yeah, they say they're not, but I think that's just, I think what they say, any team, what they say, right, is backed up by the actions they take. If they weren't happy with him, why not get a Carlos Hyde or Lamar Miller or somebody?
Well,
I know Carlos Hyde's done the Seahawks. But...
in all truthfulness, there is, I would honestly say, as of today of recording this, and we are, coming towards sort of the last couple of weeks in July here, I would say that there is a 50-50 chance he's cut before camp. I'm being serious, right? So people don't understand.
They can't cut him, can they? Because they haven't got anyone else.
There's always an opportunity to cut someone. Always an opportunity. Just let's see how it plays out. Seriously, it may sound crazy now, but we'll look back in 6 weeks.
I know they've been, this quiet, and there's been a lot of...
Didn't pick up his 5th-year option. It's massively telling.
They'll just run him into the floor, won't they? That's what they do with it.
That also is disrespectful to the player because the truth is, although you might think, well, he's playing for a contract, yeah, he can get injured and then there isn't a contract to play for. So this is actually very serious for him as well. So I'm deeply concerned for him. I have big reservations around him. And it doesn't breed a lot of good blood, does it? It's that classic, when you're talking about team harmony, I mean, it doesn't help, does it? Chemistry, that doesn't help when a player is playing for a contract that isn't going to come at a club that doesn't want him. And we've seen what's happened with the running back market as it stands today. I mean, Leonard Fournette could quickly find himself out of work. There's still a few decent running back free agents out there who haven't had a job offer yet.
They're not of worthy quality to sort of challenge him for the role. That's the thing. I mean, they say things, but their actual actions say a different thing, in my opinion.
Well, if they'd have offered him a 5th-year contract, then I would have to agree with you, and I'd have to, put the flags down and say, step back.
They won't. They're not care about that. They'll just run him into the ground for a season. That's what NFL teams do. They'll get the miles on the clock. They'll get the use out of him, and then they'll move on to somebody else. They'll probably draft somebody or get somebody in on free agency. There's always plenty of running backs looking for money, in free agency, isn't there? They never get paid. Yeah, with fantasy, we value them highly, but in the NFL, they're not. It's really tough to get these contracts.
No, I agree with that, Al.
If we look at the players that have got big contracts, how are they worked out? Devontae Freeman, they didn't make the 5-year contract, they cut him. Todd Gurley didn't make the 5-year contract, they cut him. David Johnson, they didn't want him. They basically somehow managed to get rid of his big wage to the Texans. I mean, it's just not a formula for success. You know, it'll be interesting to see how Derrick Henry and the Titans get on because he's had a lot of work. You know, he's always done it throughout. You know, from high school,
think,
from college. You know, he's had a lot of miles on them clock.
Yeah, well, I think again he'll end up probably parting ways. I mean, it just seems to be the modern way with the running backs, but they're a little bit more.
He signed a new deal, hasn't he? He signed a new 4-year deal. So but they can get out after 2. They can get out after 2 pretty cheaply.
Exactly. You know, that's my point entirely with this. There are clauses within clauses with these contracts where these teams can pull out. So the running backs are the very underappreciated group, but in his case, Leonard Fournette, it was very telling. And as you say, the odds are that they're looking to part ways after this season. You're right.
Yeah, I mean,
they'll try to run him
for redraft. I wouldn't want to own him in Dynasty because there's just so many unknowns with him. But...
I would trade on him now in Dynasty if I'm honest. Get the maximum price you can before the season starts in case anything goes wrong because it is the best price you're going to get.
Well, you wait till he has 3 or 4 good weeks and then trade him.
It's always an if with that. At the moment, you've got the brilliant thing of what happened last year. You can trade on what happened last year, but you can't trade it if he has a bad start.
Or he gets injured, yeah. It's risk reward, Sean. It's risk reward.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
if you can get somebody to pay a decent price now, you know.
Safer option, I think.
A lot of people are already saying that they're, you know, I don't know. I mean, because they're playing Gardner Minshew, that they're tanking for Trevor Lawrence, and that's their QB. You know, franchise QB going forward, but people always say.
Well, we all know, we all know the big problem here. The guy that was very instrumental in giving him 70 catches last year, because his average is about 30 a season until last year. That is a blip in the horizon. That is a real weird one. And now that guy Filipino, he's gone. So he was instrumental in this. So he's gone. They've got some coaching changes. It looked like they're tanking mode. I agree with that. And then, to me, it's hard to run a running back into the ground. I'm sure he'll get his opportunities, but I think it's harder because you're going to be chasing more games. So if the game slips away from you, and I think Jacksonville Jaguars are going to have a lot of games slipping away quite quickly. Yeah, it's more difficult. Much more difficult. We'll see what happens.
What do you think of Fournette? I mean, what
he's got a lot of lovers. A lot of people love him.
Well, if you owned him the right seasons, he's done all right for you, hasn't he? So, I would buy him at the right price, is what I'd say. I won't be rushing to draft him. I won't overdraft him, certainly. But if he falls to somewhere where I think, actually, it's worth taking a shot there.
Since 2018, I've owned no shares of him. I'm not disappointed about 2019 not having him at all. But this year, I'm again back on the 2018 train. I'm not going into him.
Well, there you go. Okay, Sean, thanks very much, as usual.
No problem.
If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. Put your comments down below. Tell Sean why he's wrong. That's always good.
Yeah. Thanks
subscribe for more, and we'll see you on the next one.
Take care.